Good afternoon. Welcome in. This is The Right Wing. I'm your host, Jarrod Wright, and I'm fired up for this episode. I've had several people come to me this week, commented or sent me messages or whatever saying this is like the redneck Nick Fuentes, the redneck America First. So this is Dixie First. I'm your host, Jarrod Wright. I got a big show tonight, big show planned for you. So I'm fired up for it. We have an awesome guest coming on. Many of you know him. Many of you saw him on my Instagram, on my Facebook, on my X, whatever it may be. You saw him, you know him. You've probably seen at least clips of him, whether you realize it was him or not, because he's everywhere. I'm super excited to bring him on. I'm super excited for Christmas. Y'all see, I got my Christmas Cat Williams up. He's my little bit of decoration so far. It's November. It's cooled off here in Georgia. We're getting some cool weather, so I'm fired up for this episode, and I'm ready to bring my boy Hermes on. I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to him right now. Awesome, Hermes, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, sir. We should be able to hear you good right now, man. Man, how's your Sunday been so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Can't complain. Just hanging out back in the U.S. after a pretty long European tour. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, dude, I don't blame you, man. How long were you actually in Europe for?
I was there for about 6 weeks. But every time I'm out of the country, especially in Europe, obviously I love seeing the culture. I love the lifestyle that they have to a certain extent, but it still makes me appreciate the U.S. a lot more when I'm back.
Hmm. No, I definitely know the feeling. Me and my wife spent about 3 weeks in Greece back in February, and we went to a couple places. We went to Italy for a little bit. We went to a different part of Greece for a little bit. But man, I miss the United States. I miss my family. I miss the common pieces that I guess I'm used to. Like one thing I realized, like I couldn't really work out. There's like one gym in the entire town of Thessaloniki that we were in, and so I ended up working out there like the last week when I finally found it. But like, there's so many common things I missed. So I'm guessing 6 weeks is double that length. Like you were probably like really ready to just like get back home and be in your own bed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one thing about Europe that I will say is true, like that Europore kind of meme online, they're more laid back, they're more chill, they appreciate their free time. When Friday hits, everyone's just going to hang out. Saturday, Sunday, they're not even thinking about work. They The customer service isn't the best, or like you try to go to a gym and then you have to enter all your like personal details, basically your
Mhm.
whole life story, or else you can't go in the gym. They make everything so inconvenient. It's almost like they hate money over there.
Yeah, dude, it was like literally impossible to get inside of my gym. I'm like, I finally found them when there was an employee there on staff, so I could sign up for a membership. Because like European hours are just like so weird. Like our first day there, like lunch wasn't until like 4 p.m. and we were starving. But I finally get to this gym where there's an employee there, and it was like probably like an 8 block walk from where I was. And I'm trying to communicate with the person. They don't speak much English at all. And then they told me it's like 50 euros a week, and I had to give all that information like you talked about. I was like, "Holy freaking cow!" I'm like, "That's more than I pay in a month right now." Uh, so it's different, but in a way, it's so beautiful there, and the relaxed feeling is really nice. Because in America, we're so go go go. I'm assuming you're that way too, and so this feeling of just like I have nothing to do, like I can just relax. I mean, part of it is you're not working while you're over there too. I mean, like a true job, 9 to 5. But it's really nice, and I wish we had a little bit more of that here in America.
Yeah, I do appreciate it sometimes, but like I said, it gets a little old. But like in
Mhm.
Spain and the Mediterranean countries, they work for a few hours, they go for lunch, and they have lunch for like 3 hours. They're drinking coffee, eating food, smoking cigarettes for 3 hours. Like the stores are closed, a lot of restaurants closed for like a few hours midday, which I have some appreciation for it. But like you said, in the US, it's always go, go, go. There needs to be I guess, a fine balance of that,
Mhm.
because it does seem like the U.S. can be extremely materialistic at times, and people get overconsumed in that. So I do appreciate the more, kind of family, people are chilling. They appreciate, just hanging out with people and kind of connecting with their community.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And one thing I noticed too, that me and my wife, I had been to Europe a couple times before. This was my wife's first trip,
Mhm.
and like we go to dinner, and like if we eat a late dinner at 7 p.m. And I'll never forget, we went in and the waitress was going to sit us down, and she was like, "Look, we can sit you here, but you have to be gone by 9 p.m. for the rush hour. And we're both like, do what? It's like the rush hour at 9 o'clock. It's like we're trying to get in bed by then. It's just it's like everything is just delayed and so
Yeah.
relaxed, and it is nice, man. But I do want to dive in a little bit into, I mean, who is Hermes? Like, because this is something I genuinely don't know. Is
Mhm.
Hermes your real name, or is that like a nickname that you kind of adaptive and ran with?
Yeah, so it's not my real name. I'd rather not share my real name. Like people can find it, they already have,
Mm,
but just for privacy reasons, I kind of picked that name because I was always into kind of Greek mythology, kind of
mhm,
into occult kind of stuff, astrology, things like that. So Hermes is Mercury. It's just the manifestation of Mercury as like a
mhm,
god. And I don't know. I always had some affinity towards that. Like I had a bottle in my room. They have this brand named Hermes,
mhm,
just a water bottle brand from Lithuania, and I had that in my room since I was kind of little, since I was like I don't know, 12 years old or something. And just something about that always resonated with me. And obviously, it's like the messenger god. Obviously, there's more to it than just that.
mhm,
But when I started my account, I wanted to spread a message. That was
mhm,
kind of my main goal. At the start, I did it more through humor. Now it's a bit more serious. But there's definitely power in words. There's
mhm.
power in letters, and there's definitely power if people, looked as Hermes as like the messenger god for years. There's something in the air. There's something spiritual about that word.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a super cool history behind it in a sense, because I mean a lot of people find Greek mythology so fascinating,
Mhm.
and dive into it. And so for a lot of people, like that translates well. That it is a messenger thing, and I think that you've been a messenger in a lot of ways to a lot of people, about a lot of issues, and kind of opening people's eyes through, like you said, through a humor standpoint in a lot of ways. But a lot of times you ask them questions that can come across as humorous or even funny, and it's legitimate, serious questions, but
Yes.
the answer is so out there if you answer it how they want to answer it that it is humorous. And so it's a funny message to deliver, but I think you've done a great job at kind of opening people's eyes in a lot of ways through that, and being a true messenger.
Yeah, I mean, humor is a big part of it. I kind of don't do it as much anymore. Honestly, I should because it's a lot easier to get through to someone in that way. Like when I ask something completely outrageous, it seems outrageous to like the average person. Like when I talk about race or bring up, black people, should they use the self checkout? Like there's a shock factor to it. First of all, second of all, it's pretty funny. Everyone likes racist jokes, but then you kind of peel back the layers. You're like, why is this offending so many people? If I asked, should white people be able to do it? No one would really care. It wouldn't even be that funny because there's no stereotype of that. And,
Mhm.
kind of gets the ball rolling, gets people thinking. Or when I ask them, like, some of the Jewish jokes, things like that, people, it kind of disarms them. And then, once they realize this, why is it funny? Or like, why is it a joke? They look at the comments and people are saying certain things. It's a lot easier to get through to people in that way.
I feel like it kind of takes down a little bit of a barrier that's there. It's
Yeah.
like it's just a way to get people to put their guard down, and almost open up their mind to understanding a little more.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people just don't dive into this stuff, and they immediately jump to, well, you're an absolute racist and you hate everybody, and things like that. And it's like I feel like it's a way to kind of just put your guard down, because I don't know about you, I'm one. I'll joke about white people too. Like it doesn't matter to me. Like
Yeah.
there's issues within any race, within any ethnicity, within any country. There's issues that we can joke about, and I think joking is a good way of communicating a message, honestly, about stereotypes that are true and stereotypes that really need fixing worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, stereotypes stem partially from the truth. Like, obviously, it might be over exaggerated,
Mhm,
but they all have some truth to it. Or every joke that's funny or has some value of it that people say that there's always some truth to all these jokes for a reason. And these stereotypes, they obviously didn't come from nowhere, and they've
mhm,
been around for ages.
mhm,
So, and we do have to acknowledge these problems, and a lot of people are scared to talk about some of these topics because they're extremely taboo. Whether it started from the school system, we're not allowed to talk about these things. This is the path that leads down. They kind of block it off right away. But nowadays, like even a year ago, I would have not been allowed to say the stuff I'm saying on social media. So
mhm.
we've already gone a very long way. Like I'm still pretty young, but even a few years ago, when people were saying they're gonna vote for Trump, we're getting like fired. It was like it was like banned to say that. People had to hide that. You know,
Mhm.
you're wearing a MAGA hat, you're gonna get harassed in the street by people. And nowadays, you know, some people can post Hitler at us online and they're fine. Nothing will happen to them.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way in a very short time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I'm kinda curious because, like, what I've noticed within my platforms and speaking out, specifically more about Israel than anything else, is that most of my platforms have been taken down or heavily censored in a lot of ways. But what surprised me is that Instagram of all of them has been the biggest open platform really for me to say what I want. Even X to some extent has become such a Israeli controlled, Jew controlled site that a lot of that stuff gets taken down or censored or not pushed. But on Instagram, you know, most of the Hitler edits that I see are on Instagram and things like that. Do you have a similar opinion on that? Like, has X been your, or I'm sorry, has Instagram been your primary platform for a lot of this stuff, or has it been elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram definitely kind of got me blowing up like right away. Things just started taking off there. I mean, they were doing well on different platforms. TikTok's a lot more liberal and they censor a lot more. Not just about Israel or race stuff. They just censor anyone. To be
Yeah.
honest, I don't know what the rules even are over there.
Well, it
Um,
changes every week. I get a new community
yeah,
guidelines notification every week. So
yeah, I don't know. There's always something new they make up. But Instagram, yeah, it's kind of weird. It makes me kind of wonder, like, why are they allowing this to prosper? Why are they allowing this to flourish? Like, what's the end goal here? Like, I understand a lot of people think in these ways, and there's a lot of accounts that would need to be shut down. But what's the end goal here? It seems like they're pushing it. But
mhm.
even some of my normie friends or people I know, you know, they'll be sending me some of these reels, and all their algorithms are very similar. It's all like racist, anti-Israel stuff.
Mhm.
It seems good on the surface, but I always think there's something more to the story because obviously there's people who are controlling these sites. Maybe it's just for profit and this is what people like and people are scrolling it. It keeps them on there. Or maybe there's something deeper. Um, I don't know. It's weird because it seems like there's a push. Even on YouTube, they're
Mhm.
promoting it. Somewhat on TikTok. Like they're obviously banning people and they're not outright, you know, promoting them, but they are letting it flourish. And it should make people kind of think and make them a little worried.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And what's interesting about Instagram specifically is it's a very, I mean, it's Jew owned, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, Berg at the end of his name. It's not that big of a surprise. But yet these things are getting, you know, I mean, my Instagram has been pushed heavily. And I'm almost curious if it's one of those things where it's like, we're going to push this and almost label it as an extremist position
Hmm.
and normalize it, but normalize it as extreme,
Hmm.
where maybe people are almost turned off by it because it's become normalized. Because a lot of things, once they're taboo, people love it,
Hmm.
and so I wonder if it's almost like a counter strike in a sense of like let's like normalize it so people don't think, oh, this is cool and edgy. Because I think that was kind of the position it took within about I'd say about a year ago. It became kind of edgy and kind of pushed that way, and it's almost like they're trying to fight back by normalizing it. But I almost feel as if it's backfiring on them, where more and more and more people are waking up and picking up on a lot of these things, specifically about Israel, but even against like normal race issues and things like that, where people are like, no, this is a true issue that we need to see solved.
Yeah, I don't know what the end goal here is, but it does seem like they're kind of trying to discredit it because obviously people go too far. I don't know. Apparently, there's a lot of actual feds working in the government whose job is it to post on these social media sites and you know infiltrate some group chats or maybe push things to the extreme. So
Mhm.
when people say, "Look, these people are talking about race in Israel," but they're like you know, Fed posting calling for death of these people. And obviously, there's always going to be people who take it too far.
Mhm.
So maybe it is to discredit them. And it seems like the things that are pushed the most, especially on X, especially on Twitter, I've noticed this. It's the slop, it's the brain rot that gets pushed the most. When I
Mhm.
see something extremely insightful about race or about Israel that is, you know, well thought out, it never really gets pushed out that much. Like, yeah, I'll
Mhm.
have some engagement, some interaction, but then people, you know, even me, like obviously I use it to my advantage. You post like I remember this went super viral. Deport Jews to Madagascar. It's like that goes viral, like something stupid like that. But then
Mhm.
someone you know explains kind of the history behind it, why we might have these racial differences. That never gets pushed.
Yeah.
So it is weird.
And it goes into like the algorithms and things like that, and kind of backing up what you were saying. I mean, you have guys like, I'm a big Nick Fuentes guy. I love watching his show. I don't know if you watch it or not. I know a lot of my people watch it, and what's interesting about him is you could label him the most racist influencer on um, any
Mm,
social media. A lot of people say this is number one. He's the most racist. He's the most anti-Semitic. All of it. But
mm,
yet, even he comes out and says things like, look, if you just have a general disdain for all black people or all Mexicans just off the rip, he said, like, you can't just hate people simply because they're a different color than you. Like, that's not what we're pushing. And sadly, a lot of people have picked up and said that like that's their stance. And I think that's like the extremism they're trying to push. It's
yeah,
like, no, 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 that's not like my message. That's not your message, I'm assuming, because like I have several friends who are black or who are Hispanic or of
yeah,
different ethnicities, but these are people that you can have a general like conversation with. They're not going to get offended. Like they're not way out there in a lot of the things because I mean, honestly, this sounds terrible, but they have a high enough IQ to have a conversation and to understand that there are issues within race, within nations, within ethnicities that are problematic, within religions that are problematic, and they'll talk about it, and we'll come up. I mean, not with solutions like as if we can change the problem with the snap of our fingers, but we talk about like how can we fix that and how can we change that, and I think that conversation is incredibly important, and for people to understand this isn't a problem where it's like no, oh, I hate all black people. No, that's not what anybody's pushing. Anybody of any real seriousness is pushing. It's an issue where like, no, we need to address the issues within black culture. Why is crime so high? Why is single motherhood so high? Things like that. Why is drug use so high? And there are a lot of high tendencies within the black culture that push those things. How can we address it? How can we fix it?
yeah. I mean, to be honest, Nick, he's honestly very moderate. Like I wouldn't say
Mhm.
he's extreme at all. Like people look at him as this. I mean, they call him a Nazi. I mean, they called Charlie Kirk a Nazi,
True.
and
What does
this
that
guy
make
was.
us?
I, I don't even know what to call us, but they'll call anyone a Nazi who disagrees or is. I wouldn't even say Charlie Kirk was really to the right. I mean, maybe slightly, but
Mhm,
if they don't agree with their communist policies, you're automatically a Nazi. And
mhm.
yeah, I agree. Don't have racial hatred. Don't hate people just because they're black, because obviously there's good people of all sorts, but there is some room for hate. I'll say that. Maybe it's not a Christian position, and I'm not Christian myself, but a lot of Christians have said, you're not supposed to hate everyone. You have to love them. But especially when I went to Europe and even in the US here, like I see these people who are clearly destructive, who clearly already hate us. And you could say, whatever, it's a culture, it's a brainwashing, but there's something innate in them that I don't know why they hate us, but they do. And if something threatens something that I love and I want to protect that what I love, I'm gonna hate what goes against it. So there's definitely room for hatred, because you can't. I mean, if someone hates you with all their heart, you can't just love them. It's not gonna go away. Like when I see, the problems in England or France or Germany, where these people, they're doing insane, disgusting things to your children, and you don't hate them. Of course I hate these people, and it's not all of them, and obviously give people a chance, but just because there are some good apples of the bench, I'm not gonna treat all these people equal. I'm not gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I want them all out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get the stance you come from. I will give you a little bit of a pushback from the Christian perspective. I mean, you're coming from not a Christian. I'll come from the Christian perspective. I think that we can hate their actions. We can hate the culture and the tendencies, but we can love the person. And true love for the person is calling it out. That's kind of the stance that I take. Is like, hey, I want to call out the bad parts of this because I genuinely feel like everybody deep down has the same essential genetic makeup in a way that we can all be God's children. We can all accept Christ in a way. And I want them to see that and understand that and change their ways because I'm a person that, I mean, if I had my way, every single person would come to Christ and would love one another in a way and not do these things. Now, obviously that would be a very utopian society type situation. I mean, it's not possible. It's not really even biblical. It's just not going to happen. but I like to try to come across my stances from a position of love and love for the person, but hate for the action. And calling that out, I feel like comes from a place of love, where it's like, hey, look, I want to call you to be better. Like, yeah, ultimately the issue with a lot of these, immigrants flooding into the UK and to different places is you see rape stats are going through the roof. I hate that crime. Rape is terrible, but I don't want to hate the individual. I want to call them to be better and to hopefully accept Christ all in all, which, I mean, I guess that's just a different stance given that I am a Christian and you're not in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that point of view. I don't know. I can't agree with it. Like, if these
Yeah.
people do such atrocious fucking things to our people, I don't care if eventually they, repent. They think they realize what they did was wrong. I don't care. The damage has been done. There are
Mhm.
some things that are so evil in this world that you don't deserve forgiveness. You can't repent. I believe you can't repent from some of these things, and they deserve the worst.
Mhm. No, I mean, I will give you a little bit there. Is I'm 100%. Some people say, well, what if one of these, well, let's just say somebody on the Epstein list, child rapist, terrible crimes. What if they weren't Christian and gave their life to Christ? And right before, let's just say that they were going to be executed. Then I would say that's awesome. They want to learn about God. We're going to bring a Bible and we're going to bring a rope and we're still going to hang them. Like, our sin still has earthly consequences. And I 100% believe in those earthly consequences. Every single person on that Epstein list, I would like to see hanging from a tree publicly, personally, because there are earthly punishments for mistakes that you make, sin that you commit, whether or not you're a Christian or not. And I'm all for that, and I think that we can all come to an agreement there. I mean, I don't know if anybody, like, I've yet to talk to anybody online that's like, yeah, I support the child rapist. Like, we should let them go, and so I definitely think that we need to see a push for these earthly punishments. Like, no matter who you are, no matter what position you're in, no matter what your race is, no matter what your ethnicity is, no matter what your religion is,
Hmm.
if you're on that list, you should be hung from a tree. If whatever that means, like, sorry about it, but like, you committed the crime, you got to do the time. It might be time hanging from a rope in this scenario, but you got to do your time for it. And that's a position I think that pretty much everybody agrees with. And what's sad is we cannot organize as a group of people to push for that position and actually push for something to be done. And what we see is in Congress right now, I mean, the Epstein list is still just sitting there. Congress is still shut down. We're not seeing any actual movement on it, despite people knowing who's on the list. We've seen small leaks.
Yeah.
Supposedly people have the list. Why can't it be released? And that's just a small snippet. I mean, that's just this specifically Israeli centered snippet. We see these same rapists all over Europe. We see them in America. We see them, I mean, worldwide. We got to put a stop to that crime in general. And so I'm with you in that stance. It's like, no, we need to see these people, like, I'm a big believer in public punishment, because it sets the precedent and says, no, 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 this is why you don't do that. Number one, it's wrong. Number two, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, 100%. There needs to be some sort of fear for people not to do this, because some people don't have morality, and that's just an unfortunate reality. I don't think everyone can be taught morality. Some people just don't have it innate in them. But something that always works, like, for example, in Dubai, it's such a safe city. It's not because people love each other there. It's because they're so scared of the punishment. If you steal, they're going to chop off your hand.
Mhm.
That's what's going to happen. So it's not everyone loves each other, which I think that'd be the better angle to go from. But in the U.S., that's just not going to work.
It
If it's
requires both, in my opinion. You got to have a love, but you also have to have true punishment for when things do go wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And some people, certain demographics, they don't really care about their community. If it was a homogenous society, maybe you wouldn't need such strict punishments, and you could actually try to rehabilitate these people, and you wouldn't have to be so strict. But in a place where we are nowadays, we need these strict punishments, and we need them to be enforced, so people are genuinely scared to do these things.
Mm. No, I'm with you. I mean, there has to be a genuine fear, and I am kind of curious too. With your background, when did you kind of wake up to these beliefs? Like, when did you kind of come to this realization of what's going on, of what's truly happening in the world? How did you kind of develop these beliefs?
Yeah, I would say since middle school, I always kind of Actually, even earlier than that, especially with the school system, that was, I guess I would say that was like the first red pill, and I'll kind of explain how it connects. But I mean, I remember sitting in school, it was just, it was never natural. You have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. It's, the answers are A, B, and C, and only one is right. There's no other ways around it. There's no creativity. We're obviously, young boys. We have testosterone. We have, these things. We want to go do stuff, and you're forced to sit in the chair. You have to listen exactly to what the teacher says. You can't step out of line or you'll be punished. That never sat right with me. It was so uncomfortable just being in that situation. And once I started going to like middle school, I'm like, no, I can't do this. This is not what we're meant to be. This is clearly, they're brainwashing us. They want us to be, good slaves, to just follow the rules, never rebel, to kind of kill your spirit inside, that you just don't step out of line, and you're just gonna grow up, get a job, pay your taxes. You might have a wife that hates you. You might have a kid that won't listen to you, and that's just gonna be your life. And I never accepted that. I knew we were meant for more, just as a human species. So that was kind of the first thing.
Mhm.
And once you realize that, and once you realize that most of the things that you're taught in school are just a lie, it's flat out a lie, or there's a lot more to the story, I kind of started looking into these things. A big person I used to listen to was Alex Jones. I love like the conspiracy theory kind of things. We didn't go to the moon. There's, fluoride. It's turning the frogs gay. Um,
Chemicals in the
and
water.
yeah, and then eventually you kind of go to 9/11. You go to the Titanic. Another big thing was kind of learning about the Federal Reserve, how money works, that it's a lie, and it's just used to control you. And then once you realize all these things, it was obviously pretty taboo to say it's a certain group of people kind of controlling most of these things. But then kind of around high school, I heard people kind of start mentioning, that, I don't know what we're allowed to say, but you know who I'm talking about.
The
Um,
J word.
yeah, the J word. And I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense, and it's obviously not just them. Like, yes, they play a big part, but the thing I don't like about some of these schizophrenics on, Twitter, especially, try to connect it back to, the same group of people, which a big part of it is them. But there's also people who aren't like that and who are just genuinely evil, who have these
Mhm.
bad intentions. And there's different sections, there's different groups of people at the top. This is what I think. And I mean, it's true if you look into it, and they disagree and they fight. Yeah, some people have more power than the others, 100%. Um, but yeah, once you realize that, and I don't know, I kind of stepped away from all that for like a couple of years after I finished high school. For like a year or two, I'm like, man, this is too much. Like, I'm one person, what can I do? I kind of had
Mhm.
that kind of mindset. So I was just trying to make money. Like, my goal was just not to have a boss, not to have anyone tell me what to do, kind of have the financial freedom, location freedom. But then I looked around me, because I came to Florida like around that time, and I'm like, wow, like, we live in such a broken society, and I see these things are getting worse and worse. I try not to look at the news, but you see these stuff on social media happening. October 7th happened. People started bringing some of these ideas to the mainstream. And I'm like, wow, well, I have to do something about this, because clearly this is happening in our lifetime. And am I going to be a bystander that just sat around in one of the biggest events, the biggest event in our lifetime and probably this century? I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I'm going to play a
Mhm.
part of it, because I
Mhm.
want to influence it in some way. And even if I barely do it, even if I don't do it, at least I tried.
Yeah. No, that's true, and I think that perhaps you felt like a special calling upon yourself, because I felt it upon me. Kind of how you said, where you had this period of time where you're like, you're a single person, you can't do anything. I feel like that thought resides in most people's heads, and there are those of us who say, you know what, I don't care, I'm still going to try
Mhm.
and see what happens, and see if I can make any kind of difference and wake people up. And that, I always had that feeling with deep within me. And I come from a little bit of a different background as far as how I kind of realized these things and woke up to a lot. Throughout school, I mean, I did the best that I could, and like I was all about school. I was always a straight A student. I was always, I had several scholarships for college. I worked hard during school. I
Mhm.
was the star student for my class. Like, I had the highest SAT scores. And up until I would say through about really my senior year of high school, like that was it. Like I was the guy like, oh no, he's going to go to college. He's going to get a good degree. He's probably going to get a master's, maybe a doctorate, and,
Mhm.
and do something in a field somewhere of relevance. And I remember this feeling I get, and perhaps it had to do with sports too. I get to college, and I'm
Mhm.
playing college basketball, and I'm doing, I'm at a decently prestigious school as far as education goes and such. And this thought hits me that's like, what else? What? Why am I doing this? Almost like a burnout in a sense, but like, does it really even matter in the long run?
Mhm.
And at that point, like I kind of woke up to a lot of things and kind of this anti-establishment viewpoint, kind of to grow, kind of started to grow at that point. And I go throughout, another several years of college where I was going to college because I didn't really think there was anything else but that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was, supposed to do. That's what had been hammered into me. And I kind of get to the point where I'm done with college. I think it's stupid. I think it's a scam, similar to Charlie Kirk's views in a lot of ways. And I meet my wife, start dating my wife. I want to marry her, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do college anymore. I don't want to do this. I want to work and be with my wife and kind of grow a family. I think that's where I'm at. And my anti-establishment views have kind of grown. And then I start researching everything, and it just became obvious to me how much the government lied to us. And that was kind of the beginning of my waking up in a lot of ways, where I said, "Wow, this is insane." And that kind of grew, and I would tell people about it, and people would call me crazy and everything else. And then about a year ago or so, I started to wake up to a lot of the things within Israel, because being a Southern Christian, right in the Bible Belt here in North Georgia, being anti-Israel is extremely uncommon. I was joking with somebody the other day about, I'm driving down my street to get to my house, and one of my neighbors just bought a house right there on the same street as me
Mhm.
and put up a big, "I stand with Israel" sign. And it's like that is what's common here. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I woke up to this, and I felt like deep down I had this yearning and this duty to tell other people, specifically other Christians, especially Southern Christians, very Protestant, very pro Israel, and
Mhm.
say, look, no, this isn't what the Bible says. This isn't what history says. Like, you need to see the history of what these specific people have done worldwide. And it's repeated itself over and over and over. And so I kind of woke up and I feel like I stepped into my role as a man
Yeah.
as to what I should be doing. And so I think that you have a similar kind of ending to your story, even though it's not over yet. We still have quite a bit to write, obviously. But I'm kind of curious, like, how did you grow your following? Like, I mean, how old are you? When did this start? Like, how did you kind of grow the following that you have to get to the platform that you have?
Yeah. So I'm 21. I started my accounts like 8 months ago now. Yeah, 8 months ago. So still pretty recent. Um, yeah, I mean, it just kind of took off almost right away. It's like when you step into what you're supposed to do, it's not me doing it. It's
Hmm.
something bigger than me kind of leading it. That's kind
Hmm.
of how I look at it. And it's just, yeah, everything just clicked. Everything just worked. It's like I stepped into what I was supposed to be doing. Like I stopped swimming against the flow of the water, and I just let the water take me where it's supposed to go. But yeah, on Instagram, I mean, all the videos started doing well basically right away. It took
Hmm.
literally a few weeks, because people wanted. I guess I kind of started off, like I said, more joking around, but it was about racial things. It was kind of about Epstein, Diddy, or whatever kind of current topics. But it was definitely controversial. Obviously, controversy sells. But another thing was cancel culture used to be so big. Like you weren't allowed to laugh at the racist jokes. You weren't allowed to laugh at anything.
Hmm.
And when people saw this, like people started kind of outright making these things. And I'm definitely not the first one to do it, but I was kind of the one who I know did it in the way that I did it. And people were just refreshed. People were just tired of saying, not being able to think that these things are funny, or we're not allowed to say what everybody's thinking.
Hmm.
So when I just went out and said it, people were like, wow, someone's actually saying what we all believe or what we find funny.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, it's such a like same. That's kind of what I said earlier. It's taboo to say these things, which
Yeah.
is crazy. It's like even like and I'm happy that it's kind of becoming more common, but even the still, like within India and the whole cow crap, smearing yourself in it. Like, what is up with that? Like that is disgusting. I don't care if that's your religious belief. I don't care if that's your cultural belief. It's disgusting. And we should joke about it and be like, hey, this is weird. And people don't like that. People don't like being called out on what, their ancestors have done for thousands of years or what their religious beliefs are. They don't like being called out on those things. And yet, whenever we call it out, I think people kind of wake up to the fact that, hey, this is like maybe kind of weird. This isn't like normal. Maybe we should talk about this. Maybe we should, change this a little bit.
I mean, yeah, come on. If someone sees the cow shit throwing festivals, or them eating it, or them drinking cow piss, and they think it's normal, like I don't know what to like the amount of brainwashing you have to go through to think that that's okay.
Hmm.
That's insane. Like that's absolutely
Hmm.
insane. And the funny thing is about those rituals or those festivals, they started as humiliation rituals. When white people came to India, when the ancient Aryans came to India, they made them do these things because it was just a humiliation ritual, and they
Hmm.
still do it. Like I don't understand how they're so. I don't know. I really don't get it. And
Hmm.
looking at these people, yes, obviously they're still human, but we have to realize like our differences are so extreme. Like that is, come on, someone who does that is not compatible in our societies, and we shouldn't
Hmm.
force them to try to integrate because it's impossible at a
Yeah.
certain point. At a certain point, we're so different and we think so differently. Our morality is different. The way we see the world, everything about us is different. And people say, oh, it's only skin color. That's the least amount of our differences. Like
Hmm.
that's not that's nothing compared to everything else that's different about us. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's becoming more mainstream to talk about these things because I mean, how can you not see it? How can you look at these people doing these things and say, yeah, we're the same. We should be we're going to thrive in a society where we're to live together and live under the same set of rules. That's literally impossible.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, if you just took, say 100,000 of these cow poop smearing individuals and brought them to America and dumped them in, how well do you think it's going to go? Throughout history, yeah, and this isn't to say that all people of any particular race are bad, but it's to say homogenous societies or mostly homogenous societies tend to do better than those that are spread out and more diverse. And this kind of you can tie this back into the whole Jewish Israeli deal, where one of their deals is they want to push very diverse societies because I think that when you see that happen, you see a lot of fighting within the society and it begins to destroy societies. And that's something they have pushed for thousands of years and they've been proponents of. But whenever you look at these, like this particular festival, and what's sad is like people are waking up, but it's still not to the point we need. Like I forgot what the guy's name is that went in with the hazmat suit. Like he
Tyler Oliveira.
Exactly. He's had freaking, like, death threats, like, he's not even gonna, like, send the video out that he made. He just has the clips that are circulating
Yeah.
because he's like, he said he's received so much hate for it. Why? Why are people hating on that? Like, I don't like, literally 90% of the world has to agree that this is absolutely disgusting. And what's even sadder to me is that the Indian side of this that has tried to back it and tried to say that this is okay and this is normal is comparing what they do with cow crap to the Spartan races of all things, where they're going underneath like in the mud underneath the barbed wire and they get
Yeah.
muddy. And it's like, why, of all the things to compare it to, you're going to compare it to arguably some of the most athletic people in the world and say that they're the same. It's like, no, this isn't even remotely close to the same. Mud and cow crap are two completely different things.
Yeah, I don't get why they're telling him to delete the video, but then they're defending it. So which what is it? Is it all right? Are you guys proud of your culture, or are you embarrassed and you want him to delete the video? It doesn't really make sense. Like I,
Mhm.
I was I actually talked to a couple Indians about this because like after it released, I ran into some Indian students in Florida and I was asking them about it. As at first they were saying, you shouldn't go there. It's like you shouldn't show that. It's not your culture. And then at the end, he was, just defending it, like, oh, it's all right. It's healthy to do this. It's like, yeah, come on. And
Yeah.
then I was trying to ask people about are some cultures inferior to others, and it's like they just can't win that argument.
Mhm.
Like they can't win that argument. Like it's like I don't even have to have coherent arguments. I don't even have to be that. It's just logic. Like
Mhm.
you see this, and you see throughout the world, throughout the last few centuries, which societies have prospered, it's not those societies, it's not
Mhm.
those people. So there's literally no argument. I mean, they could do what they want. Go let them have their shit throwing festivals in India. Just don't bring it here. Don't bring these people here. Just
Mhm.
let them do what they want. Sure, they could have the best time of their life there. They could do whatever the hell they want. Just don't try to, be around us. Don't try to push it on us because that's not what we are.
Yeah, I agree, and it's also very interesting to me that every time diversity is mentioned, it's never mentioned in those countries. Like, you don't hear people talking about, "Oh, wow, we need more white people in India." It's, "No, we need more Indian people in white European countries or in the United States," or, whether that's Indian or black or whatever. The diversity always ends up on the white side, and, like, I'm the same as you. I'm very proud to be white. I don't think there's anything wrong with being proud to be white and being proud of my heritage. But yet, why is diversity always pushed onto our nations and our cultures? It's like we build up a culture that does great, even before you see international affairs that might destroy certain nations or whatever to an extent. Even before that, typically white European descent nations thrived and other nations didn't. That's what you see throughout history. Why do those nations need to have diversity added to them? But yet these other nations like India and like, most of Africa, why do they not need, white diversity added to them? I think there's something to be said to that where people are always chasing this superior society, you could call it, where the culture is just it's different and people want to be a part of it, but yet you don't see very many people be able to integrate into it well whenever they come from that culture.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a fight between good and evil. Like there are evil forces trying to exterminate the white race, trying to exterminate white countries, and I don't think people realize what's going to happen. Like white people are already a minority in the world, but
7% now.
yeah, and once we get even lower, once there's no white countries, I don't think people realize how devastating for the world that'll be. Who are the people who are the most empathetic towards animals? Who are the people who care about the planet the most? It's all white people. I mean, the world's literally going to end if white
Mhm.
people become such a small minority where they don't have any power in the world. It's just going to be evil's going to wash over the world. Nobody cares. I mean, I'm in Miami. I could see who's littering. I could see who doesn't care. If there's trash on the streets. I can see who doesn't care about animals. It's all the same people. So I mean,
Mhm.
they're just shooting themselves in the foot. And I just think there's some greater force, some demonic force out there that's just trying to make the world evil. And we helped all these people. Like these countries would still be shithole. I mean, they are because they're not occupied anymore. But we brought these countries. That's why there's so many Indians. That's why there's so many Africans. Is because of white people. They would be dying right now because of their hygienic practices.
Mhm.
But we let these countries prosper for a little bit, and now they hate us for it. I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, and what we see is, like you said, we're seeing the decline of the white population. Whereas, not that long ago, I think it was roughly 100 years ago, around the beginning of World War II, we were like roughly a third of the population worldwide were white people. Like I said a second ago, we're down to 7% now, or this diversity has come in. And like, honestly, it's destroyed the white population in general worldwide. And because of that, we see a lot of the corruption within society in a lot of ways. And because these societies, they cannot integrate no matter how hard you try. It's like taking, I mean, as terrible as this sounds, it's like taking a child that was raised by wolves and expecting them to integrate into human society. And it's the truth. Whenever you grow up in a completely different realm, a completely different set of rules, a completely different set of everything, and you just get plucked up and dropped and expect to just work, it doesn't happen. And that's what we're seeing people are trying to do. Specifically, a lot of it we're seeing firsthand and can witness it in Europe, where you just got out of, where you saw, to me, a lot of this stuff, like you saw an absolute first person view of what's going on there. I'm kind of curious to dive into that. Like, how was this European tour? What did you see there?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely radicalized me a lot more, because it's one thing to see on the internet, to see clips of some of these places, but then actually being there in person and going to Sweden and being 10 minutes outside the main city of Stockholm and just seeing all Somalians in like a suburban kind of town area. Like, I literally saw like maybe two actual Swedish people there on a bus. The rest were just Somalians There's stores that aren't even in Swedish; they're in whatever third world language it's in. These people, they don't even know the native tongue. There's no Swedish restaurants or stores. There's all these places that are helping them. I saw a place, it was only for Somalians, or maybe not Somalians, but all refugees. But it wasn't for Swedish. I don't think Swedish people could go in there. You could go wash your clothes. You could. There's all these free things, and who's funding it?
Mm.
The Swedish people are paying for them to themselves to get replaced in their own country, and it was just sad. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It genuinely kind of made me hopeless, and I don't like feeling this way, because I mean, what's the point? What's the point then if there's no hope? So I like to keep your spirits high, but it's hard. It's hard not to just be blackpilled when you go to these places. And there's a new girl getting raped every other day, actually probably multiple times a day, from these disgusting creatures who are invading their country. And then if you speak out against it, you're going to jail. You're getting fined.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, look at UK. I mean, it's bad there. You got that poor white girl like a month ago who was about to get raped by some immigrant, and she pulls out like some massive machete or some crap, and she gets put in jail. She's like 13 or 14, if I remember right. And they literally arrest her for having a weapon, but not arresting the immigrant for trying to rape her and grab her and take her. And how disgusting is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane. There should have been a revolution already. Like, that's why it's like, if you don't see that there's a problem right now, are you ever going to see it, that there's a problem? Mm-hmm. Like, how bad does it have to get? People are getting arrested for tweets. Mm-hmm. And then the rapists are getting released the same day to their 4-star hotel and getting 3 meals a day after he just committed an atrocious act. It's like, if you see that, it's like, what? Mm-hmm. What's the point of doing anything in your life? Like, people go to work and they see this stuff and, oh, it's all right. It's not all of them. What the hell? Like, what are you doing? Why are you even living at this point? Like, your grandchildren you're already gonna be a minority. Your grandchildren, do you think it's gonna be fun for them to live in a like 90% Muslim society around all these insane brown people? Wake up! These people just need to wake up. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. If you don't see it in front of your eyes every single day, there's no hope for some of these people.
Well, I think a lot of it too has to come with, I mean, I think you would agree in a lot of ways over the course of the last 75 years, the men's testosterone level has been purposely pushed in the downward trend through what's in our food, through what's in our water, like we joked about Alex Jones, through things like that. And I think that this was on purpose. I don't think this was necessarily accidental, because whenever you have a group of men who are very low testosterone individuals, you see this trend where they conform to whatever the society says, and they're scared to step out and speak outside of that. And a lot of it, I had a very intelligent conversation with a good buddy of mine, and we talked about this idea where a high testosterone individual is much more likely to step outside of what society says and to what they feel is truly right and fight for it, because they have a feeling deep down that they can still provide for their family even if society rejects them. And it goes down to like this core idea of what is manhood. And we spoke on that, and we spoke on why this low testosterone problem is an issue. Whenever you have these little soy boys, honestly, like you see guys like like Dean Withers and things like that, and like they don't even hardly look like men. And they're in their, I'm pretty sure Dean's like mid-20s, and like he doesn't even look like a man. He looks like a lesbian, honestly. And it's like he's fighting for his viewpoints, but they're all these gay, like pro-immigrant agenda things. It's like, no, dude, like your testosterone probably needs to be like higher than a 200, and maybe you'd wake up to some of these things. And I think that's on purpose. I think it's pushed on a lot of people. And whenever you wake up and whenever you dive into this, what I would call a high testosterone, some people would call it, alpha male mentalities, you see what's going on and you say, you know what, I'm going to speak out against that because I can still provide for my family because I believe in myself to do that. And that's whenever we start to see real change. And I think that might be even one of the first steps is kind of trying to push this testosterone level and push real manhood upon men to kind of get to where we're going, where we should be going at least.
Yeah, 100%. We're being attacked from all angles, whether, it's the 5G towers, it's a fluoride and estrogen in the water, it's vaccinated meat, whatever they vaccinated with. Yeah, we're being attacked from, all angles. even the chemtrails, and obviously consuming social media, that doesn't help. Or
Mm,
even music, they put it on certain frequencies, to lower your vibration. I agree, it's definitely a physical, like, testosterone thing, but I think the bigger issue, it's a spiritual thing at the
mhm,
end of the day. Because even when I'm eating unhealthy, I'm not getting good sleep, my testosterone levels might not be the best in the moment. There's something spiritual that makes you get up, that makes you fight for these things. And I know back in the day, when these people are in times of war, they're not eating a lot of food. I don't think their testosterone is too high, but they have such a mission, such a drive for something higher, that
mhm.
something else carries them. Yes, testosterone's 100% a part of it, but they're just trying to kill our spirit. And I don't know exactly how they're doing that. And I don't know how to exactly fix that, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if religion is the answer. I could see the arguments for it, but
Mhm.
people definitely need to become, I don't know, spiritual.
Yeah.
Some sort of spiritual. Remember who you are. Remember what your ancestor did. And I don't like the whole ancestor circle jerk. Oh, mine did this while you're sitting in your cozy apartment and haven't done anything in your life. But use that as like motivation. This is what they did. They
Mhm.
fought these battles, and we're in a different point of life. We have to fight these battles, because where are my children going to grow up in? What are my grandchildren going to do? So there's definitely something spiritual that people have to wake up to, and I'm not exactly sure how to activate that.
Yeah, there's definitely a religious standpoint to this I think people need. I think there's a certain, feeling of needing to change the world that comes with strong religion, no matter what religion that is. Obviously, I want to push Christianity. That's what I am. I'm a Christian, but we see that across all the religions. All the major religions have this, other than I would argue maybe Buddhism, and stuff like that. But the three Abrahamic religions, at least, there's this feeling like you need to do something, like you need to step out. And sadly, what happens with a lot of what I would call the mainstream Christian movement, specifically in America, specifically, sadly, within Protestantism, which is, I mean, what that's where my background is this feeling of if you step out of line, that's not good because God's love extends to everyone, and so you should never call them out. And that's something I've spoke out about a lot. Is like these people feel as if they're hating individuals, and that they should never tell them they're wrong. And that's not biblical, in my opinion. The biblical stance is, the Bible says, don't call out a speck in someone else's eye if you have a log in your own. The biblical stance is make sure you don't have a log in your own eye and then start calling out everybody else. It's clean up yourself and then call out everybody else, but nobody wants to speak about that side of it. People need to wake up to a sense of like saying, no, we're going to change this. We're going to have a true religious drive to change the narrative, to change history. We saw this strong within Christianity when you see things like the Crusades.
Yeah.
Whenever you see things like these crazy religious wars that were fought, because these people were focused and they were truly driven by God, whatever their little g God may be in within other religions, but I claim capital G God within my own. They were driven by that. So maybe the religious awakening would help, and we are seeing a specifically Christian awakening here in the United States. There's a major uptick in searches for who is God, for Bibles being bought, for church attendance, for things like that. And I'm hoping that it ignites a flame within our generation that pushes for real change, that pushes for this world to be a better place. That's something that I really hope for because we're seeing the fall of Europe, we're seeing the fall of America, we're seeing the fall of what you could call the empires that were built very similar to the Roman Empire. From within, the corruption within, the sexual immorality within, all of these things, they stimulate fall, they stimulate crumbling, and we're seeing that history repeats itself over and over and over. And our history is mirroring that of the Roman Empire so closely. It's incredible that people aren't seeing that more.
Yeah, I mean, that's why all the education institutions are corrupted. They don't want you to learn the actual history. They don't want you to know how these empires actually fell. They don't want you to know the truth, because then you'll notice it around you. Then you realize that, oh wait, history can't repeat, or this is how we can stop it this time. But the education system is so corrupted, and that's one good thing about social media. To be honest, information is so easily accessible right now. You could literally search up anything
Hmm.
in your insane supercomputer that you carry around everywhere, and people just use it in the wrong ways. You could literally find out basically anything you want at any given time, and people don't realize how insane that is. And I guess people just take it for granted since we carry it everywhere and can use it anytime, any day. It's like living in a place and never visiting the tourist spots because, oh, I live there, I could visit it anytime.
True.
But yeah, it's definitely an education thing as well. And yeah, I mean, people's attention spans are also just completely fried. That's why they make the social media algorithms like the roulette things where it just tickles your dopamine at all times,
Hmm.
completely fry your attention. You can't read anything, you can't learn about anything. And it's also hard because you don't know which information is actually real nowadays, especially
Hmm.
with AI. Like, I don't think people realize how insane AI is as well and how many problems that's going to cause in the very near future.
Hmm. Well,
But
look at the big beautiful bill. One of the things that got passed within that a lot of people were opponents of, but this is one of my issues with multiple issue bills being pushed through, is you have something like the big beautiful bill, which pushes the end of restriction of AI. This says we're not going to restrict this for something like the next, I think 5 to 10 years. There's going to be no restrictions on it. So we're already seeing these major issues within AI being too powerful, being able to generate things that are too I won't say vulgar in a lot of ways. Something that the Jews have pushed, I've seen recently, is AI child porn. They're big proponents of that because they say, well, it's a victimless crime. So this way, the people who are watching it aren't actually watching real children; they're watching fake children. So nobody's involved, and all you're doing is you're opening it up to more issues down the road. And that's one of the scary parts about AI because in a lot of ways, and the Bible's clear on this, you can use things for good. But if it goes too far, if you overuse it, if you allow it to extend too far, you see issues. Like there's so many things that are great within society. AI is one of them. Being able to ask, and like you said, a supercomputer any question and let it analyze the entire internet and give you an answer is incredible. But then we let it go too far, and then we get into these things like AI child porn, or the same with social media. Social media is such a powerful tool to connect with other people. I mean, it's the same way that we connected was through social media, but yet people use it and overuse it and use it for the wrong reasons. And now you see things like the frying of your dopamine receptors through videos that are, you see a scene change every 3 seconds or something else pops up that's a bright color that catches your attention. And so things like that, we're seeing even little children within their shows becoming accustomed to and are normalized within that. And it causes major issues for them growing up. So it has to do with limiting things to an extent, but how do you balance limiting and free will? That's the hard part.
yeah, sometimes I think this might just be destiny, might be prophecy, whatever you want to call it. And maybe we are at some sort of end times because I've heard theories that, the world resets every, like hard reset every 4,000 years. And then there's smaller resets every 2,000 years.
Mhm.
And we're living in one of those times where a massive reset is bound to happen. So maybe this is just what's supposed to happen. And maybe we've already gone through something similar, whether, it be Atlantis or some other times back in the day. Maybe this is just supposed to happen. But I think everybody knows innately what they have to do. And unfortunately, 95, probably even more percent of people just don't have a role to play. They're just there.
Mhm.
They're just there and they,
Or NPCs.
yeah, exactly. They're NPCs, and that's the unfortunate reality. That's just what they're there for. And there's a few main players. It's like I don't know if you've heard this comparison before. It's like 90% of the people are NPCs. Then like 9% like the warrior or soldier class, and then 1% are the kings, are the people who are actually going to make difference in the world.
Mhm.
I kind of definitely see that, and that's with everything. But if you're one of those people, there's going to be a force bigger than yourself that's driving you.
Mhm. I think that drives most people, and kind of getting behind that. I'm curious as to what you saw specifically in Europe with some of these forces. I mean, we know for a fact that this Muslim expansion, this Islamic expansion, is happening all across Europe. What was your experience with it? Because I mean, I think a lot of people are shielded to it. I have a lot of people on my Instagram and on my different platforms that are Islamic, and there's some great people. Don't get me wrong. There's some great Islamic people, just like there are some good Jewish people. There are some great Christian people,
Yeah.
but what is the ultimate end of Islamic controlled nations and the spread of Muslim religion within these nations? Because we get an example, we see firsthand exactly what's going to happen. What is your experience with it?
Yeah, so I mean, Muslims' end goal, their main goal, is to convert everyone in the world to Islam. That's literally what it says in their book.
Hmm.
And I've talked to some Muslims. A lot of them won't admit it because they have the same thing that's like in the Talmud, where you could lie to non-believers and
Hmm.
there's no consequence. You could lie to them to spread, the religion, and it's karma-free, whatever they believe. So I mean, that's their end goal. They want the world to be Muslim. They want Islam to spread all over, and they could do it by any means necessary. They could tax people if they're non-believers. They'll basically be second-class citizens, and I mean, we've already seen them try it throughout history. So when they become a majority, like for example in London, when it's like 30% white, and obviously the rest of the 70% aren't Muslim, but a lot of them are. Once they get into positions of power, it's not going to be fun. Right now, when they're the minority, they cry victim. They only want to be accepted. Let us have a place of worship. We won't bother you. But then they become a majority. They start growing. They start getting into positions of power. That's their end goal. That's literally what it says in their book. So in no way, shape, or form, it's compatible with any countries in Europe, not in the US, not in Australia, not in Canada. It just can't work. Even though I'm not a Christian, I will acknowledge that Christianity definitely shaped the United States. It definitely shaped a lot of countries in Europe. Um, so when people think, oh, Islam isn't the problem, it's the people who practice it, it's actually both. It's the people who are mostly Muslim, and it's also the religion.
Hmm.
And you could look into their book. And I talked to some Muslims in Manchester, in England, and this guy wasn't hiding it. I mean, he hated Western culture. I remember asking him, "Oh, how old was Aisha when Muhammad married her?" And he's trying to cope. He's like, "Oh, you can marry your mother in these Western countries," which is absolutely false. Will you condemn 14-year-olds getting married in Italy, where the age of consent is like 14, but it's only up to 17? So they try to go through all these loopholes to rationalize it. Then they shit on the countries they're in, and it's like, why are you here if Islam is so good and these Islamic countries are so amazing? It
Hmm.
makes no sense.
What I've seen as the ultimate goal is expansion, to take their people and their religion and expand imperialism, which whenever it's white people, that's considered the worst thing ever. Imperialism is part of their goal, religious imperialism. They expand, and then either you convert, or they say, okay, you can stay within this, but you're going to pay a ridiculous amount of taxes to us. And there's a specific Islamic word for it. I forgot what it is now. I think it's actually within their language, whatever it is they speak. I don't forgot now. But
Jizya tax?
do what now?
Are you talking about the tax? What it's called?
Yeah, the tax. What
Jizya
exactly?
tax.
Yes.
Jizya.
So they tax you, and then eventually what ends up happening more or less is either you're taxed to death or you convert.
Yeah.
And eventually they kill you. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately that's what ends up happening is Christians, white people, European, whatever you want to call it, however you want to organize it and catalyze it, you get killed. You get taxed to death and then you get killed. You become a slave. And that's just not within our goals as a European ethnicity type people. But that's what happens with Muslim expansion every single time, wherever it's at. And like you said, when they're the minority, they play the victim role very well. They play the victim role. They're wanting to, we just want to be safe. We just want to have a place to worship. We just want to be here. And the next thing you know, they take over. Look at Dearborn. Look at a lot of Minnesota. You see these places where they're taking over, and the next thing you know, their prayers are over the city intercom system, 5 times a day, and that's just like step three. Wait till you get like step nine of this within that area. I've already seen where they told Christian pastors who have been planted in that area for a long time, for decades, He goes in, he says, "Look, I don't want these, calls to prayer at 6 in the morning." And they said, "Well, if you don't like it, you can leave." Okay. Well, we're seeing it happen unfold right here in the United States. We're seeing it happen even, probably two steps ahead within Europe. It's terrifying. And people fall for it in a way because it's not a true religion. It's a very violent religion, honestly. Some people may be nice individually, but ultimately it's a violent religion. I can't understand why people are okay with it spreading and pushing for that diversity whenever history shows exactly what happens when it spreads.
Yeah, that's why it's so dangerous when some of these people unite under hating Israel, like being anti-Israel. Then they'll ally with like the Palestinians or the Muslims who have always disliked, Jews and the Jewish religion. And then when they hate you just as much, I mean, we saw the pro-Palestine protesters, the same ones who were so anti-Israel. I remember the No Kings protests in California. There was insane amounts of pro-Palestine flags there. These
Mhm.
people just hate America, and they see
Mhm.
Jewish people the same as they see whites. They see these people as colonizers, as oppressors. So they hate you just as much. But if you dislike the bigger enemy, yeah, sure, they'll unite with you now to get, whatever, defeat them. But they'll turn their back to you just when they're not an issue. I mean, they
Mhm.
hate you just as much. So it's extremely dangerous. And when these people say, like, oh, Israel's the only problem in the US and we can, unite with these people who hate us. And, people have to really think, do I really want to unleash a bigger evil that we don't know, which could be Islam? At least we know, what Israel does and how it occupies our country. You could still get money here. You could still, live a pretty decent life under, even though our government's occupied. You think under Islamic rule you'd be able to make money? You'd be able to have the freedoms that we still have? No, you won't. Obviously, I
Mhm.
would rather have neither occupy our government, but
Mhm.
people have to be very careful, who they side with and what they let, flourish.
Yeah, I'm very careful whenever I try to speak because I never want to come across as pro Hamas or pro Palestine or anything like that. Because what I've said before is I'm not pro either side of the Israeli Palestinian
Yeah,
war. I'm against both of them.
yeah,
But I will side with innocent people in a lot of ways. Like whenever they're getting bombed and blown up and like, trying to help out those families, like I'm okay with helping that out. That doesn't mean I'm pro Palestine. I've said
mhm,
before, when it comes to a specific conflict, it comes to statehood, as a personal belief and understanding, I don't really care if Palestine gets its own state.
yeah,
But in a lot of ways, to accomplish the goals I think need to be accomplished there, it could be advantageous for them to have their own state. And that's kind of the stance that I take. And I think that you're going to be the same way. My take is I'm America first.
mhm,
I believe in this nation. I believe in helping this nation. And whether that's Palestine or that's Israel or that's Ukraine or that's Russia, why are we just sending money out left and right? Our money, mine and your money, the listeners' money is getting sent out left and right to accomplish stupid stuff overseas that we should have no part of. And it's this whole neocon movement where it's like, oh, we need to stamp out communism. That's kind of where a lot of this began. It's like, oh, as if we have a duty to the rest of the world. It's a globalist agenda. And a lot of it is pushed by a lot of Jewish people, a lot of very, very rich Jewish individuals who have a very Israeli dominant force behind them, I would say, and belief system. But that's not what America should stand for. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that. I think a lot of people are saying, this is ridiculous. We're getting taxed to death, yet we can't afford anything. And then you look over at Israel, and if a mother has a child, she gets like a ridiculous amount of money every month for the rest of her life coming from our pockets. And I'm not one to push for socialism. Today Trump rolled out he rolled out the 50-year mortgage plan. People got pissed off, and he said, "But it's okay. We're going to give you $2,000." It's like people are all for socialism when it benefits them directly, and it's because they're blind and ignorant in a lot of ways. No, $2,000 does not help me in the long run. $2,000 is really nothing because what I want to see is true fixing of this economy and not just like, oh, here's a nickel, congrats. But people just, it's like they don't have the IQ or the mental capacity to understand that. They just get excited at $2,000 and the fact that they can go blow it on a new PlayStation and maybe a couple tattoos and some beer, and they're going to have a great time and live in the moment. And it's like, no, that's stupid. You're not looking towards anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the bread and circus. For the cattle, they'll see $2,000. Oh my God! Like you said, they'll blow it in a week. Yeah, I'm definitely America first. I want what's best for America, and honestly, some socialist policies, they can work. Obviously, not outright communism. People still need incentive to work, and
Mhm,
obviously, communism will never work. But when it's a homogenous society, and like a certain person did, give people vacations, family vacations, or pay them, incentivize them to have children.
mhm,
Because when you live in a homogenous society and you care about everyone, when you actually care about your neighbors, you want what's best for them, and you don't mind. Maybe I'm doing a little better in this time. I'll incentivize them.
mhm.
Because I want them to be happy. And I mean, we've seen socialist policies work in like the Scandinavian countries because they
Mhm,
were homogenous.
mhm,
Of course, they work, and I mean, obviously, they're smaller countries; they can actually do those sort of things. So I don't know, some sort of mesh in between those. Um, while I am America first, obviously first and foremost, I do also care about European and white people as a whole. And I think we should help some of these countries. And for example, I like what Trump did with the refugee thing, where he lowered the amount of refugees that could come in, but he's going to prioritize the white Afrikaners from
mhm,
South Africa to come in. I think that's amazing. I think we should incentivize, because some of these European countries, unfortunately, it might be over for them. I'm just going
yeah,
to be realistic here. I don't
yeah,
know if they're saving some of them. So let's incentivize some of those people to come to the US. And I do support like an American empire and the American empire expanding. And I do have a lot of hope for the US because we still have our First Amendment. We still have our Second Amendment. There's still something in the air that, America, you could do anything here. You could become whoever you want, no matter where you started from. There's
mhm.
definitely something in the US. And yeah, we can't become a second class nation in the world. We have to stay the superpower.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and I was also and that was one of the things that Trump has done, I try to come across this whole situation with Trump from a very unbiased standpoint of how I feel about Trump. As somebody who was a Trump supporter, now I'm not really the biggest fan of him, but I think we can all, if you have a high enough IQ to think critically, say, "Well, this was good and this was bad." I was a big fan of the, refugees, of specifically white refugees, because ultimately, sadly, when non-white immigrants come to the United States, the more problems we see. We have a housing crisis right now. People don't
Yeah.
like to talk about it, but whenever you have roughly 100 million people here who are not true Americans, if you really
Yeah.
want to dive into it, I'm not one saying let's go back and start revoking citizenships, because then you get into really sketchy territory. But truly non-American people, then you start to see, okay, well, overcrowding issues, and you start to see these, hyperinflation issues and things
Yeah.
like that. But I do enjoy the fact that he has tried to push for that at least a little bit, and trying to bring us back to a. I mean, we're still technically majority white nation, barely. We're on pace to not be. The under 18 crowd is less than 50% white now. But if we can push for that, I mean, I think that's a good thing. And part of that, when you see within a lot of the socialism that works, we see a very nationalist viewpoint coming behind that also, and a belief in that nation, and that becomes taboo in a lot of ways. National socialism, obviously, oh, Hitler, whatever, but the theory behind it worked. I mean, Hitler's idea was, look, I believe in my own people, and I love my own people, and I love this country, and I'm going to incentivize my people to have as many children as possible, to grow my people. And you look at the average white woman in the United States right now, she's having, like, I think it's 1.4 children per white woman. It's the lowest of all the races in America. And
Yeah.
it's to the point where, like, the extinction of the white race is coming. It's happening. We're seeing it before our eyes. We need to push for white women to have more children, and a lot of that comes. You can talk about, Jewish funded ideas where, oh, these women should, live their life to their fullest in their 20s and get married when they're 30, and then have kids when they're 35. And well, then you can't have as many kids. I mean, your fertility drops naturally over time. But that's obviously part of the issue. Part of it is the economy, where they say, well, we can't afford kids, so we're just not going to have them, or we're only going to have one or two. And part of it is just, I mean, well, fertility issues in general, but part of it is they just don't want them. It's this idea that they don't really care, and that's not the standpoint I take. The standpoint I take with my wife is, and this is coming from, me and my wife have had fertility issues, and we're trying to work through that and have children, but we want to have as many children as we possibly can. You look at our great great grandfathers and grandmothers, they had tons of children. It was commonplace to be like, yeah, I had 9 siblings, and you go, what? You grew up with that? But that was common. That's been common throughout history, and now it's like it's less than 2 children per woman. Like you're lucky to have one sibling in modern day society, and that stimulates the fall of these races that we spoke about. And whenever you try to replace a falling fertility and a falling race with other cultures, then you run into the issues that we're having, just like we've spoke about.
Yeah, obviously, I want white people to have more children, and I kind of had the same perspective. I mean, for the most part, I still do. But honestly, like the Jewish population of the world, it's like 0.2%, and just look at the amount of power influence they have. So honestly, even if we do fall to even a smaller minority, I think it's never going to be like over just because of the white people's skill set. Like nobody is so well rounded as white people, from creativity, intelligence to the physical capabilities. So, but yeah, they definitely need to start having more children. And I think it's just the world's too good right now. It's too comfortable. Like, why would you
Mhm.
have children? Like you don't need, like back in the day, obviously you had children so they could work on the farm, help around the household. Also, I guess it was more fulfilling. Maybe you live a depressing life, and it's just something that gave you hope, gave you something to do. But nowadays, you're just constantly distracted, can constantly overstimulated. It's like you don't even think about kids. Why would you have kids? Your life is great. You don't need children. Like obviously, when you get older, you're like, oh shit. Actually, I kind of do want kids. Who's
Yeah.
going to take care of me? I don't want to die alone in a nursing home. Obviously, yeah. I don't know how to solve that. The people's want for children.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't
It's a
know.
deep rooted issue. It really is. I do think it's interesting you brought up the Jewish people and being such a small percentage of society yet having so much control, because this goes back to organization. It goes back to ultimately the Jewish people, and part of what backs the power that they hold, whether that's over the United States government, whether that's over worldwide policies, whatever. They are extremely organized. They are a transnational organized society, all with allegiance, a very strong nationalist allegiance to this one nation, which is Israel.
Yeah.
And we don't see that within anything else. That's why they're such an anomaly, because that's what the backing of their power is. It's the fact that they're organized, they believe in this nation, and they work together. Nick has this is my favorite quote. This is Nick Fuentes' quote. He says, "An organized minority will always beat out an unorganized majority." And it's the truth. We see it happen firsthand. The organized minority of Jewish people is beating
Yeah.
out all of the other groups of people, no matter how you organize them or how you put them together. Versus, I mean, white people are a relatively powerful group of people, like you said. And if we were organized, what could we get accomplished? What could we get done? But we're not. I mean, we live our own comfortable lives, like you said. We fall back. We want to, I poke fun. I'm a football fan, but how many people worship football to the extent where when the weekend comes, all they do is they want to sit down in a chair and drink beer and watch football for the
Yeah.
entire weekend, and that's like their free time. That's what they do. There is no calling for anything bigger than to watch other dudes play with a ball. It's weird, and like, what, I enjoy it. I enjoy the competition and things. I can watch it and have a good time, and I have teams I enjoy. I have a Georgia logo on my cup. But when it becomes worship and it becomes just, it takes over our thoughts, I think we see an issue. And this is why we can't ever organize as a society. The most organization, honestly, you could argue the most organization we see within our race is over football
Yeah.
and over supporting a team. It's like, well, I'm a Georgia fan, I'm an Alabama fan, and they clash and they hate each other and joke about it and whatever. What if we organized as a full group of white people, or as Christians, or as both, or as Americans? What could we see happen?
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon in white people. It's like if they don't have anyone to fight against, they just fight each other. I mean, you see throughout history, all these European countries is constantly at war with each other, or even in America. when it was Anglo-Saxons that first came here, they were racist against Italians, against Irish. White people are always, I don't know what that phenomenon is. They'll always fight someone,
Mhm.
whether, and yeah, right now we have to unite obviously against the greater enemies. But I mean, now we even see the left versus right, white people, liberals versus Republicans fighting against each other. And I guess people just have to unite. That's why, I mean, the brainwashing is just so strong, it just everywhere constantly. And that's why, people like Hitler are so demonized, because he said there's something similar on a soul level. He kind of used like a Jewish tactic. They think that Jews think they're God's chosen people, and then someone comes and says, well, we have an Aryan spirit, we have a white European spirit that's distinct, and all of us, white Aryan European people. So people kind of have to realize that, but it is kind of hard to convince them, because I mean, like I said, that's why they demonize, World War II so much. That's why
Mhm.
that's why everyone knows about it. That's why when everybody thinks of evil or the worst thing that ever happened in the world, it's this one event and this, certain person. So again, I don't know. It comes back to education, people just remembering who they are, and yeah, we do need to unite somehow.
Yeah, I mean, and Hitler, like you said, he's demonized in a lot of ways. And I think it's clear if he just genocided 6 million people, like, yeah, I don't think many people are going to support that, honestly. You can believe what you want about that. Regardless of that fact, you see tens of millions of Christians that were genocided before that within the Bolshevik Revolution. Within World War II in general, you see tens of millions of people who were murdered and killed throughout war, but that's not spoke about. And Hitler becomes this demonized figure because of this event and the supposed Holocaust. And it completely pushes away the fact of the good that he did do in German society then. And critical thinkers can look back, and from the year of 1933 to say 1941, there was some real good that took place there. But yet, if you believe in that and you like it, you become a racist and a Jew hater and everything else. And that shouldn't be the case, because critical thinkers can look back and say, okay, in this 8-year span, he fixed the unemployment issue. He absolutely made the economy boom. He did some incredible things for the housing market, for the population growing, for creating a strong nation. I mean, an incredibly strong nation. And I don't know why people hate that idea so much. And so when he pushed this idea of National Socialism and say, hey, this works, which it's really, I mean, it's kind of like, honestly, capitalism, where you put a ceiling on it and don't let people grow too powerful and corrupt, is essentially what you see within that. And a strong love for your country, a strong love for your people. People just they cannot comprehend the fact that these things can work without also thinking you have to kill every single Jew alive. And that's the brainwashing of school. That's the brainwashing that comes with the Rockefeller education system. And like you spoke about earlier, growing up in this education system. And it's sad, because what we've done is we've created a generation of people that cannot think critically and come at issues from multiple stances and look at it in multiple ways. You've created a generation of workers, which was the ultimate goal. That's why they did that, because they wanted a generation of workers within the school system where, hey, I come in at 8 and then I leave at 5 and that's it. And it's sad, and I hate that. And I'm hoping people wake up to these oddities, and people are. The homeschool rate has went way up because people have woke up to the school system being corrupt, just in and of what it is. And that's not to say everybody in the school system is bad. My own father's a teacher. He's a superintendent of a county school system now. I have great friends in the school system who genuinely want good for their students, but ultimately the entire system is corrupt. And me and other people have talked about this, where there are good people within any institution, whether that's the CIA. There's great people that work for the CIA or for the government. That doesn't necessarily mean that the institution itself isn't bad. It can be, with them still being good.
Yeah, I mean, I knew teachers who are amazing, and they genuinely cared about helping their students. But someone actually showed me this a little bit ago, that the books we actually read, like the textbooks in school, are actually owned by like just Lane Maxwell's dad or something, or
Mhm.
uncle.
All the McGraw-Hill books
Yeah,
are
yeah,
her dad's company. He's the
yeah,
one that pushes all the information we see, and how disgusting is that?
yeah. It's crazy how it all connects. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the solution here is. Again, we kind of talked earlier that 90% of people are always going to be NPCs and all that. And when the tides shift, when there's revolutions, Like the French Revolution, for example, people can say whatever they want about it, what actually happened and who was behind it, but 1% of the people revolted against the government, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes. It takes like 1% of people to actually make a change. And I kind of look at the world as, it always swings. It's a pendulum. It swings
Mhm.
one way, then it comes back the other way.
Mhm.
And right now we're so extreme on one side, and it might get worse before it gets better, but we're nearing that point where it's going to swing back just as hard. And I mean, you see, especially Gen Z, especially in my generation, they're so radicalized, whether it be to the right or to the left. They either think there's no genders, no borders, we should be communists, or it's completely the other way. We're Nazis. We need to, save the white race. We're better than
Mhm.
everyone else. There's no
Mhm.
middle ground. There's absolutely no middle ground, and it just kind of shows where society is at. And it's just a natural reaction to something so unnatural.
Mhm. Well, what's sad is the left wing viewpoint, like you said, the gender neutral bull crap, all of that stuff has been pushed so hard to become normalized
Mhm.
that that's almost your normal group. And I think that the pendulum has swung in that direction. And this is something I've talked about where I think that we're seeing the beginning of a massive pendulum swing, especially within the America First movement. Look at what happened to the Republican Party last week on Tuesday. They got absolutely hammered in the elections
Yeah.
because they're split. And I think what we're seeing is we're seeing very similar to what happened with Trump in 2016, where he came to power through a pendulum swing back to the right. I think it's slowly shifted back to the left. Things have become normal, and we're going to see an even bigger pendulum swing where the popularity of people like Nick Fuentes, who 10 years ago would have been considered absolute insane far right, like whatever you want to call it, he's becoming normalized. And to me, that's beautiful because that's my viewpoints. And I think that pendulum swing is going to be good, and hopefully it's going to help society. But man, Hermes, it's been a great conversation. I'm happy you came on. I'm happy you dove into this with us, and it's good to have conversation with people who can think about things. I've said it multiple times. Think about things critically, and not people that get so offended or so scared to say the truth in things. And are have the balls, have the high testosterone to actually speak out against what's happening in the world, no matter how racist it might make you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think this is a pretty interesting conversation. Hopefully, the audience learned something from this, or if you guys already knew, hope this was at least entertaining.
Yeah, I think the people are really liking it. I mean, from what I can tell, it looks like we've had several thousand viewers within this. So I think we had a pretty good show, and I'm sure many, at least several hundred, if not a few thousand, will watch after the fact per usual. So again, thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Hermes, and thank you all for all your support, whether that's coming from Hermes's platforms or from mine. I mean, we appreciate you. Neither of us can do this without you. I say this most shows. We really can't do it without your support because y'all are the ones that push us to want to be better and give us a voice. We really do appreciate you. If you don't follow Hermes, definitely go follow him. He should be tagged about all these things. For Hermes' followers that are watching this, I'm Jarrod Wright. I hope you enjoyed the conversations we had, the opinions we have. I'd love if you come and follow me as well. But yeah, again, man, thank you for coming on to the show. And